later on today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I am Michelle Morris from Consolidated Planning Group. I really appreciate you coming out and visiting us and checking out our webinar, whether this is the first one you've seen or 15th. I'm glad you're here. We should be here for about an hour today. We've got a great informational topic for you. Lynsy Meier is going to be talking to us about an HCS waiver and what it involves and what it is and all of this fantastic information. We should be here for about an hour, and we're in webinar mode, which means that we cannot see you or hear you. So feel free to sit back, relax, enjoy a snack while you're watching this webinar. If you have any questions or comments, we love that. We would love to be able to help you. So put those questions and comments in the chat box, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. If we don't get to your question, feel free to reach out to us directly. Whether it be me or Lynsy, you'll have our contact info. So first of all, before I let Lynsy take over, I want to introduce Consolidated Planning Group. We are a financial planning firm located in Sugar Land, just outside of Houston, and we work all across Texas and all across the United States. We serve families, primarily families who have a loved one or an individual in their life with any kind of intellectual or developmental disability. We have been in business in the financial services industry for 30 years. We've got lots of experience, and we are members of the $1 Million Roundtable, which, it's an industry award for helping serve families. We do life insurance and securities, and we're members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. And finally, we are also National Social Security Advisors. So we help with a wide variety of issues that families face. And the reason we do this is because we live it, eat it, breathe it. The owner of our company, Allison, and her husband, Jeff, have 4 kids, and 2 of them have some sort of disability. That's what really turned us on to the fact that there's just not enough help out there for families who have a child in their life with a disability. And we help families when it comes to things like protection plans. What happens if the main breadwinner in your family is no longer able to work? What then? We help you think about that. We help protect your family. We help you with lifetime care planning. If your child is maybe going to be unable to work, unable to live independently, what does their care look like, and how much is that going to cost? And how can you save and prepare for that? We help families with transition planning. There's a lot that happens when your child turns from a minor to an adult at age 18. There's a lot that happens when they're finished with high school. And we can help with those things. Of course, ABLE accounts and advocacy. We're here to advocate and to educate. In the United States, there are over 263,000 financial advisors. And out of those 263,000 financial advisors, only 200 really focus on special needs planning. That's less than 0.1% of all the advisors in the United States who do what we do. I mean, we're not the only ones, but we are pretty darn good at what we do in helping families focus on planning for the future. A couple bits of advice before I turn things over to Lynsy. I know it keeps you awake at night thinking about who is going to take care of your child when you no longer can. And by planning early, that is the key to success and the key to getting better sleep, because the earlier you start, the more time that you have to make incremental, smaller changes to your plan that have a big impact. Developing a future care plan can help you answer the questions that you have. You want to think about what's going to happen after high school. You don't want your child to graduate to the couch. You want them to maybe look at educational opportunities, vocational opportunities. You want to see what kind of residential options are out there. And you probably want to tour those early because there could be a wait list. And finally, I just want to say, think carefully, really carefully, before you just assume that a sibling is going to have the ability or the desire to take on the caregiving of your individual. It can create some issues in that, maybe the sibling who is going to become a caregiver, they've got their own life, their own children, their own situations, and they didn't really sign up for this. It can create kind of an obligatory kind of relationship. And then on the other hand, the sibling who is going to be taken care of, they've seen this person as loving sibling all this time. And now the sibling is going to try to act like mom or dad. There could be a little bit of a resentment that builds there if this situation is not handled very carefully. So think long and hard before you just assume that that's what's going to happen. Okay, so today we have Lynsy Meier. She is fantastic. She's with Sevita, and I've taken up too much of her time already. So again, put your questions and comments in the chat. We'll get to those, and I'm going to turn it over to Lynsy now.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me today.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Lynsy Meier. I work for Sevita. If you guys are part of the HCS community already, you may also know of our company as DNS Community Services. We were purchased by a larger company called Sevita that's in multi-states about 3 years ago. So we are still DNS Community Services as part of the Sevita umbrella. So I've worked in this field with the HCS waiver for about 15 years. So I'm happy to come and just share a little bit of information with you guys. Here in Texas, we do help people with the HCS program in several areas of the state. So we really can serve the entire state. Below, you'll see where all of our area offices are located. But in every office, we also understand that there may be, a drive to visit families that might be outside of the scope of each area. So just sharing that right away, that we can serve pretty well anybody who needs services through HCS in Texas. So the main goal of this meeting is most of you on probably already have an HCS slot or possibly are on that, really tough to speak on, 10, 15, almost 20-year wait for an HCS slot. So if you have one already, you might already know what it entails, but maybe need a little bit more detail on that. If you're on the wait list, you might be thinking, okay, well, let me find out what is it exactly that I'm going to get when my name finally comes up or my loved one name comes up. So I like to break down HCS service into 2 buckets. Your main thing that you have to choose whenever you get an HCS slot is your living option. So there's 3 choices in living options for the HCS program. You can choose a residential group home. In our homes, we have either 3 or 4 bed group homes. We do have a few that are co-ed. Most are either male or female. Everybody has their own bedroom. You share bathrooms. Every home has at least 2 bathrooms, but there is a sharing. Whoever moves in first likely will get that master bedroom that's a little bigger than everybody else's. In the group homes, you have access to all of the community resources, just like we do at our homes. You have your community doctor network. You have your, your community activities, all of those things. So each home has a staff that is assigned to you 24/7. The staff rotate usually so that they can have a break and a rotating schedule. Each home typically with us has a vehicle available, and we get you out and about, get you to work, get you to day services. So that's kind of a little snippet of living in a group home. The staff assist you with whatever you need in the home, whatever support, and you're as independent as you can be as well. The next living option is called supported home living, own home, family home. In this setting, you have the opportunity to have a attendant care. So your service coordinator will assist with doing what's called a pass-have assessment to assess your personal skills and your habilitation, like what all do you need from a caregiver to assist you with, and what all are you interested in doing in the community, appointments, fun stuff, grocery shopping. So with doing that assessment, it will tell everybody how many hours a staff can come to your home and help you. So when they come, they can do medication management, they can do meal preparation, they can help you with your laundry and cleaning, take you to the movies, take you grocery shopping, all of those things. So attendant care is really a nice opportunity to have when you live in a family home or possibly in your own apartment, just needing a little bit of support. Also included in this option is transportation. It's a separate service, but obviously it goes right alongside attendant care, where they take you out and wherever you need to go. Even if it's a trip to the beach, because that's where you want to go today, and the beach is close enough to get to, on a reasonable trip. That transportation service is there to help you enjoy your life and get around your community. And another option, which is pretty popular here in Texas, is host home. That's actually what I focus on in my day-to-day job right now, is helping set up host home providers and explaining host home to families all the time. One really cool thing here in Texas is a host home provider can be a family member or a natural parent. In some states, they don't allow for that, but it's an opportunity for your loved one to stay at home with you. Now, you can only become a host home provider once your child becomes 18 and they're a legal adult and they make the choice to stay at home with you. And the host home provider is a 24/7 contracted service. So you choose your provider. Like if you chose Sevita, we pay the state daily rate assigned, and that rate is federally tax exempt. So that's really nice. So it doesn't have to be claimed on taxes as income. And you are now hired to help take care of your loved one, even if that's your child. Sometimes that's a little strange transition to adjust in your mind. But as the host home contractor, you're the one that's responsible for, meeting the needs that you're probably already doing if they were in your home already. Getting them to and from wherever they need to go, making sure they have everything that they need at home, and also getting them to and from doctor appointments and things like that. I see in the chat box, it's asking if we pay the full host home rate. We do pay the full direct rate. Michelle, can you push? There we go. Oh, sorry. I forgot that we had these broken out. So just going back a little bit, the residential group home, this gives you a little bit of a snippet of what I just shared with you guys about what the group home staff can do. And then on the next slide, it probably talks a little bit about what I shared with what the supported home living staff can do. And then the next one is the host home. So my apologies on that. I just kind of got excited and went straight through all of these things without thinking about flipping the slides. So like I had shared, that's one bucket, your living options bucket. So this goes into the other bucket. So these are kind of all of the ancillary services that you get for getting your HCS slot. And there's actually a slide for each of these as well. So we'll start with case management. So when you choose your provider, because there are, I didn't say that I work for one provider. There are, to be fair, many providers to choose from in this program. So whenever you get your slot, or if you already have your slot, you'll choose your provider, and the service coordinator will give you a huge list and you just call around and find the one that best fits your needs. Hopefully that would be us, of course. But anyways, each provider provides case management. So individuals have a case manager that helps keep up with the paperwork. So this program is under the umbrella of Health and Human Services. So they come out and survey us or audit us and look at what a good job we're doing for the clients that we serve. So the case manager's goal is to keep all of the paperwork organized that they want to see, the different assessments, the goals for the individual that are chosen at the annual meeting, and just make sure that the services on the plan meet the needs. We increase the ones that have a dollar value when needed, and we make adjustments and changes whenever those need to happen. A really important piece of case management is called an ICAP. So when your loved one got their HCS slot or gets their HCS slot, there's a level of need assigned. And that level of need comes off of a packet that's called an ICAP. It's a really long assessment, and it goes through like the nitty-gritty of what your loved one can do for themselves, or what they need help with, or what they just can't do. I mean, it even talks about like, can you climb a 6-foot ladder? Maybe your loved one may never be able to do that, but that's how specific it gets into all the different needs. It also talks about behavioral needs and, you know, what you want to do for your day services and all those kind of things. So when that level of need is calculated, it's adjusted every 3 years and as needed. So the case managers kind of owns that to make sure that the level of need stays correct, because especially in host home, that's important because the host home provider contractor is paid based on that level of need for the daily rate.
Can you tell me, Lynsy, how a non-family member or a person can get certified to be an attendant in the home?
So if someone has HCS services and they choose that own home, family home, supported home living option, there are 2 ways to be hired. So there is what's called CDS, Consumer Driven Services. That's where the someone in the home, usually the parent or the brother, sister, whoever is kind of like runs the home, they can hire their own staff. So the CDS, they work with a CDS company to like get all the paperwork done and make sure it's all set up and hired, and background checks and things like that are done, because there are some state requirements in order for anyone to work and get paid through the program for services. So if you choose CDS, then the CDS company and the person in charge of that would help get you hired and go through those things. There's also called an agency option, where you would actually come in and fill out an application with us, and we would go through the process of hiring you. And then once you're hired, however many hours are on that PASHAB assessment is how you would set up your schedule with the family. So I rambled a little on that, but I hope that makes sense. There's 2 ways to get hired. And the main thing is we do have to run a background check and meet the state's requirements is the main thing on how to get hired.
Can you appeal the ICAP assessment if the level of need is not correct or not what they're hoping for?
So Health and Human Services does have a department that will work with you on your level of need. So the service coordinator through the LIDA used to be called the MHMR office. That person, the case manager, they work together, and what you're looking for is at least 6 months of data on what the needs are. So say your loved one is a level of need 5, and we'll just use an easy example of starts having a lot more behavioral challenges, and level 5 just isn't appropriate. We need to bump them to the next level. There has to be documentation for that department to be able to see. So they're looking for lots of incident reports. They're looking for maybe an increase in psychiatric appointments. So yes, you can appeal it. You can work with the department on that, but they're really it can be a very long and drawn out process to win an appeal. The most important thing to do is just have really strong documentation to start with. And if you don't feel like it's the right level of need, maybe put together a new packet and send that in, with maybe stronger documentation would be my recommendation.
Okay, let's let you get some more slides done before we continue with questions. I'm sorry, we had a bunch come in. Go ahead.
Sure. Yes. And at the end, if time permits, we can definitely try to go through a lot of them. I can try to do better on giving short answers, and then we can always get into more detailed answers separately.
Okay.
So another service that's offered is nursing. So nursing is a really important service that we provide, especially for individuals living in a group home or in a host home. If you live in your own home and you don't feel like you need somebody monitoring health status and appointments, you can decline nursing. But I just think it's a really nice service. They come out, they do a registered nurse assessment as a starting out point on what your needs are and what your health looks like. And then they help you make sure that you understand all of those diagnoses and intricate things. Maybe you have insulin and you need to make sure you understand how to properly give it. They do special needs training. They can help with on-call questions that you might have for triage, things that come up. But a really nice benefit of having nursing is they help you keep up with all of your appointments. So a lot of people in the special needs community go to lots of different doctors or specialties. And one of the things that they do is review all of those assessments that come out of those appointments, the summaries, and help you keep up with what the follow-up needs to be. Did another testing need to be done? And just make sure that your loved one has that continuity of care throughout the year, because it can be overwhelming sometimes not to miss something, and having that medical professional looking at those notes and seeing the recommendations and working with you through that can be really helpful. So dental is a really nice service for the HCS program. There's $2,000 available. I say choose your own dentist. The reason that I say that is this is not like quote unquote insurance money. This is cash money. So whenever you get your HCS slot, the only thing that we have to do is make sure the dentist has a current license and get with them about their standard of conduct, because we bill Medicaid as a reimbursement, but we will help pay for this. Different providers do it different ways, but we can pay you back as a reimbursement. We can use a credit card to pay for the bill. We can get a check cut up front. It kind of, you would go to whichever provider you're with for their process, but you can see any dentist because it is cash money to go towards your dental. I know $2,000 sometimes just isn't enough, but it's a good starting out point at least. Adaptive aids it's a major benefit of the HCS program, and it is up to $10,000. And so many people do not realize that they have that much money at their fingertips. A lot of people don't need it. They just need a little bit, but if you were to need it, you have it. So in order to use your adaptive aid money, there are some requirements. The physician has to order the adaptive aid. You can't just go to the store and grab it. So it has to be physician ordered, and Medicaid has to deny it. So this program is a Medicaid waiver, meaning what Medicaid doesn't cover, it will try to cover. So it always wants to see you try to go through Medicaid first and Medicaid not cover it. So then the waiver kicks in. So common uses of adaptive aids are eyeglasses, hearing aids, nutritional supplies like Ensure or Boost, feeding devices, specialized utensils like a weighted spoon, mobility aids like wheelchairs, walkers, orthopedic shoes, orthotic shoes, sorry, portable ramps, things like that. So many times Medicaid's going to cover your wheelchair every 5 years, but if you unfortunately get a, say you have a specialized wheelchair and it needs repair, adaptive aids will cover those repairs if it's not still under insurance. Hospital beds, shower chairs, splints, slings, diabetic supplies that, maybe you use too many test strips and you just need a few more to make it through the month. It would cover that difference after insurance, has maxed it out. Incontinence supplies, typically covered by Medicaid, but could be covered here. Communication aids, that's a pretty big one. Speech devices, you would get your communication aid through your adaptive aids and then go to your speech therapist to learn how to use it. And it can help nonverbal individuals really improve their communication skills. And one that a lot of people don't realize exists is wheelchair lifts. So whenever you buy a new wheelchair accessible van, of course, the lift isn't included. Sometimes you can buy it included, but if you buy one that needs to be modified, the funding in this plan can help cover the cost of modifying that van. And that can be a pretty huge asset. Now, there are some limitations. The vehicle has to be a certain, I think it can't be more than 3 years old or have more than 50,000 miles on it, that kind of thing. So there are a few restrictions, but it's pretty awesome to have that money to go towards it. And this is also cash money that the program provider will pay for, and then we get reimbursed by the state. So minor home modifications, another really cool option out there that I think sometimes people don't realize they have. There's $7,500 available to modify your home to meet the needs of an individual living in it. So there's a couple things I like to say when I talk about minor home mods, because it's really important when you think about it to remember when I say lifetime limit, meaning this is all you'll ever get. So you would never want to modify a rental home unless you know it's going to be very long-term and you just, there's no other option. You need that modification. You just have to be very careful with how you use it. Sometimes minor home modification money is used to modify like the group home that they live in, which is great. But you also want to make sure, is this their long-term option? Would they maybe come home and live with you down the road and you already know your shower wouldn't work for them? You might want to be careful about authorizing the group home to be modified if that's not the really long-term plan. So just keep those things in mind. Now, also with using minor home mods, there are some requirements. There has to be a primary care physician order it as a medical necessity. And then a therapy professional has to come out and see the individual in your home to show like, okay, yeah, there isn't a way to use like maybe an adaptive aid to make this work. We really do need to modify the home. Most commonly, we see minor home mods used in like bathtub remodels where you're taking out the lipped tub and replacing it with like a walk-in shower is really a popular one. But doorway widening, if somebody used to be able to get around ambulatory and now they need a wheelchair and they need to be able to get into their bedroom and their bathroom, doorway widening. Sometimes floor adaptations can be covered. Like if you're maybe scooting the feet or dragging the feet and carpet and having some falls, getting smooth flooring replaced could happen. So those are just some examples of how you could benefit from minor home modification money. Behavior support is also an option as an extra service. So behavior support has to be billed by a board certified behavior analyst. So a BCBA comes out if your loved one is having some behavior concerns that you're just not sure how to handle. They come out and they do their interviews. They do a lot of just watching and kind of seeing how the day-to-day goes. And they get a good feel and picture of what maybe might trigger the person, but also what might just make them really happy, if positive, rewarding. So they look at all these different direct ideas on how to improve a behavior, and they write up what's called a behavior support plan. And then they actually come out and train you if you're the host home contractor, or your staff if you have someone coming into the home, or they help in the group home option a whole lot, training those staff on how to best approach some behavioral challenges for a positive outcome, or even to decrease the frequency, or sometimes completely eliminate that challenging behavior.
We've been getting a few questions in the chat box about SSI and Medicare, and you have to have Medicaid to get these waivers, is one of the questions. Can you be on Medicare and still get the waiver? Can you keep the waiver if you're not qualified for SSI? Talk a little bit about that if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so the waiver is a Medicaid plan. So you have to have Medicaid to have the waiver. But it's really important to remember that your Medicaid is based on the individual's life, not the parents. So when a child gets their Social Security, so anybody who has a long-term disability, like an intellectual disability, they qualify for SSI. Now, in order to get Medicare, you have to be eligible for SSDI, which is a little bit different. So let's not go down that path, but you have to qualify for Medicaid, and you should automatically qualify for Social Security income. But how they qualify you for Medicaid, I'm no expert on that, but I do know that it is based on your income, not your family. So don't rule yourself out of saying, oh, well, my family doesn't qualify for Medicaid based on, our income as parents. It's qualified in a different way based on the individual that's receiving that Social Security. Now you can have, I think this was it. Sorry. One more thing is that you can have Medicare and Medicaid and still qualify, but you have to have Medicaid. You can't have only Medicare. So I think, did I cover all of the questions you would ask?
Yes, okay. I
Okay.
think so. Yeah. And I mean, it's not really tied to whether or not it comes with Medicaid, right? I mean, when you get a waiver, you get Medicaid if you don't already have it.
Correct. They help apply. The most important thing is that no matter whether you think you're going to qualify or not, if you have a special needs individual in your family, contact the local authority, the LIDA, the MHMR, whatever reference name you put into the search engine. It's going to pull up in your county that office. Go there and say, I want to be on the list. It is their job to understand that process and walk you through it. Make sure that the disability is qualified, make sure that you get an application for Medicaid. They do all of those things when your name comes up on the list. And since the list is so many years long, the most important thing is don't question if you qualify for it, just get on the list. They'll walk you through those steps down the road. And if for some reason you can't find a way to qualify, it was worth it just to have that answer. So the next service that I'll share with you guys is really, really popular. It's called ISS, Individualized Skill and Socialization. If you've been part of the HCS program or any of these programs, you would recognize the name DayHab or Dayhabilitation, maybe a little bit more. But back in March of last year, we changed the wording to ISS. So that's basically an adult socialization center, an adult day center where you can go 5 days a week, typically Monday to Friday. Most centers are open about 6 hours a day. 9 to 3 is a typical time frame, but different ones have different hours. I know some that are open for extended hours that can really help out. If you still work like a typical 8 to 5 work schedule, they'll work with you a little bit, but most are, or I would say maybe 9 to 3-ish. At the ISS Center, it gives special needs individuals an opportunity to come together and get to know each other. And they do lots of different skills training. They do lots of different community involvement activities. And it's just really a very cool place. Now, not all ISS centers are created equal. So I definitely have a recommendation that when you get ISS, you tour multiple centers in your area. Now, if you're in a really small town, maybe you only have access to one. Like in our town, even with it being smaller, there's still two, so
Yeah.
definitely check around. If you're in a more urban area, you probably have an opportunity to tour several. And no matter which provider that you decide to go with, they might have their own center, but most providers are willing to contract with other ISS centers, even if it's not their own, so that you can still have that opportunity of choice. Another service, and I think this one has always been a little bit underutilized. It was added a few years back, and it's called employment assistance. So this is before your loved one has a job. Employment assistance helps learn those skills that can get you there. So employment assistance is going around and checking out different workplaces, seeing what your interests are, finding out how to complete an application, how to do a mock interview, just anything pre-employment that you can do to help make someone successful at obtaining the job. Now, it is important to note that TWC, Texas Workforce Commission, this is the service that typically they have done, and they still do. So in order to use employment assistance on this program, you have to have had a referral to them, and then they might say, we can't get to you possibly, for a few months. Go ahead and use this service first. So you definitely have to put that referral in, but it's another, system where sometimes there's a wait list to get to those services. So this gives you kind of an automatic opportunity to get started on those skills training.
That's fantastic. This is really valuable information.
Thank you. And then, of course, once your loved one gets the job, you might wonder, well, okay, now they have it, but how do they keep it? I feel like supported employment is a really awesome service for those who are employed. There are different companies out there that this is all they do is help you find a job and keep a job. So this is your assistance maintaining your employment. They'll come in and maybe work with you for the first 2 weeks and then start backing out so that you can be more independent, or maybe it takes longer than that. They can really work with you one-on-one for as long as it takes, as long as the service, of course, can be, let me, preface that by saying it has to be agreed on by the team and added to the plan and within the plan's budget, but definitely it can be done so that you can be successful at work. But usually what they try to do is help you fill out all that new employee paperwork, get you all set up correctly, help you for as long as it takes for you to understand your job tasks and be able to do that well. And then they just pop in and check on you. Maybe you get assigned to a different area and they have to come back in and teach you how to work in that area. But to me, supported employment, having that alongside a special needs worker, I think that opens more doors to the community so that whenever someone is hired into a role, that employer knows they have this extra support to give you that chance.
And just a quick note about employment here. Don't forget that you still have to be able to qualify for Medicaid, and you still want to qualify for SSI benefits. So you need to be careful of the substantial gainful amount. Your child can only earn so much money each month, or it will affect their benefits. They can only have $2,000 in the bank account, or else it will affect those benefits again. So there are ways to plan for that and to use maybe a special needs trust or an ABLE account to make sure that those limits are in control, that you don't go over the limit in the bank account. And there are ways to make sure that that's going to be acceptable. The substantial gainful amount is $1,550 a month. So if you're making more than that, you risk losing other benefits. So just be careful with that.
Yes. And that is such a wonderful point because, yeah, most of the time, whenever we're looking at employment options, we're thinking more of a part-time basis, just a way to grow skills and, just be able to participate in the community as much as possible. But yeah, there are some limitations. And in my personal opinion, with the cost of living and everything, those allowances really should be raised up a little bit more, but we're not there yet. So one day it'll change.
Contact your congressman.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So well, I grouped some services together, but some more services that are available, to you are professional therapies. So of course your PCP will have referred you to therapy. Possibly your Medicaid will have paid for, a certain number of sessions. But then, you're maxed out on your sessions, but you don't feel like you've met the goals yet. This is where the professional therapies come into play. And we can contract with different therapy facilities for on-site therapy, possibly some that can come and see you maybe at your day center or at your home. There's lots of different ways to get therapy, but it is available for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and even dietary assessments if you need those nutritional skills. So it's really awesome to be able to have this available. So say you max out your Medicaid sessions at, I don't know what they max out at, but I'd say maybe 12 or 15. But really 6 months of therapy will have gotten you, more steady on your feet or something that way.
Do they help pay for ABA therapy?
I do not know the answer to that. I'm sorry, Michelle.
Okay, that's fine.
So respite is, a really important topic to discuss because respite is only available if you choose that supported home living option. So if you are a host home provider or you plan to be a host home provider, respite is not available as a paid service. So since host home is considered a 24/7 caregiver, even though we all know realistically every caregiver needs a break or maybe something comes up where you need a medical procedure, there's so many different examples of where respite could be helpful in a host home environment and justified 100%. At this time with the HCS program, it's just really important to make sure everybody understands that if you choose to be a host home provider, you do not have access to this respite. Now, if your loved one lives in your home and you have an attendant coming in to help you or somebody doing transportation and you chose that path, respite is available up to 300 hours per plan years. So respite can be done in your home or out of your home. What we do is if you have somebody that you prefer, because not everybody likes a stranger coming into their home. If I chose who was going to come to your home and maybe spend the night while you went on a little trip or had a procedure done or whatever the situation may be, you might say, my neighbor is going to provide this respite, or my daughter, or my adult daughter, or, whoever it may be. So we can hire the person of your choice to come in and do that respite as long as they meet the employment eligibility, and we'll fill out the respite paperwork so that we can get reimbursed. So respite is a really cool service. If your loved one is willing to go and stay with somebody else, it's the same thing. We can hire that other person. Of course, if your loved one lives in a group home, there isn't a need for respite because group home provides that rotating staff.
These are all such great benefits.
Yes. So I threw in this slide just as a little plug to myself and my company and the position that I do right now. If you're interested in being a foster parent for a child with a disability, or you want to be a host home provider to someone outside of your family, one of the things that I do in this position is I help find children and adults who qualify for HCS services. I help them find a host home when they don't have a family option available to them. So should you be interested in, opening your home, that's a conversation we would love to have with you.
Perfect.
And this is me. This is my email address and my phone number. If you have a specific question that you wanted to discuss, we can try to set up a time to answer it. I don't always know the answer, but I can definitely try to find it. If I don't, I have access to some really amazing teammates who have done this longer than me, or sometimes have come across something that I haven't. But we would just want to share information with families of individuals with special needs. It's important that we all kind of grow in the community together and be a resource to each other.
I'll
So
leave
thank
this
you guys
slide.
for your time.
Oh yeah, I'll leave this slide up for a moment or two so everybody can write down your information, Lynsy. So really, I mean, you want to make sure you're on the waiting list for the waiver programs. You get on that by calling your local intellectual, it's the LIDDA, L-I-D-D-A, Local Intellectual and Developmental Disability Authority. So for Harris County, that would be the Harris Center. For Fort Bend, it's Texana. It might be MHMR, it might be Bluebonnet, whatever your local authority is, you contact them and you ask to be put on the waiting list for the waiver programs. Then when your name comes up, you can choose to accept these benefits. You don't have to. They do come along with all of these great benefits if you get a waiver and Medicaid. If you're on Medicaid, though, you don't have to do these things. Lynsy, where do you currently live?
So I live in Brenham, which is
You're
about halfway between Houston and Austin. So Central Texas.
fantastic. Oh, yes, you can also go to yourtexasbenefits.com, and that will help you sign up for these waiting lists and get on the list. Now, the wait can be very, very long, like up to 20 years. Lynsy, what kind of, are you still seeing about 20 years
Yes,
of a wait list?
it is a very extensive list. Once you get on the wait list, I recommend that you do stay in contact with the LIDDA to ask where you are on the list. It wouldn't hurt maybe every year to just check in and say, hey, can you tell me where my name is on the list? Just so that you don't fall off of the list for some, I can't imagine it happening, but it probably could. If you move, different counties have different LIDDAs, so moving could affect your spot on the list. So you would want to reach out to where you move to in that new county and touch base. Just get on the list. All the other questions can be answered later, but yeah, it's a very, very long process.
Yes, yes. So, I don't know how many of you have seen some of our webinars. I do recognize some of the names in the chat, so I know you've maybe seen some of our webinars, but we work really hard to provide helpful, good information as much as we can. So please keep these things on your radar. These are some of the things that we cover in our other webinars. Keep coming to them so you can get this information. Future care cost estimates, that's something that we can definitely help families with. And you want to think ahead about how much that cost of care is going to be in your future. The waiver programs, of course, which we've been talking about, one of those today. We can help you understand the differences and how to apply and when to apply for different benefits like SSI and SSDI. We help with ABLE accounts and understanding how to keep money in the right buckets so that you don't lose any of your benefits. We talk a lot about special needs trusts, how to get money in there. Of course, you do need an attorney to help you set that up, the special needs trust. You would also need an attorney for guardianship, powers of attorney, your will, but we can help you understand how those things work and why they're so important. There are nuanced rules and regulations out there that, it's important that you have an expert to discuss these things with. Again, tour places early for residential living communities, because there could be wait lists. And it would be horrible for you to finally find the right place and then, oh, it turns out there's a wait list. So they can't take you. Guardianship, alternatives to guardianship, that's a very important and touchy subject. But you can begin the guardianship process when you're within 6 months of your child's 18th birthday. Also, when you get these slides later on today, this is going to be a clickable link for you. It will take us to our list of upcoming webinars on our website. You can register for the webinar, and even if you're unable to make it live and in person when we present, all of our webinars go to our YouTube channel, so you can watch those at any time when it's convenient for you. We always send out the link to the recording and the slides after the webinar has been presented, so you will receive that in your email later on today. This is our team. Consolidated Planning Group, like I mentioned before, we are financial advisors. We can help you think about the ins and outs of caring for your loved one, what this is all going to look like. We are members of the Academy of Special Needs Planners. We're National Social Security Advisors. We are an independent small firm, and we do offer a free consultation. If you want to meet with us, you can call our office at 281 there's some interesting information in the chat box. Don't forget to be checking that out, everybody. 281-690-1177 is our phone number. You can set up a free consultation with us. That slide seems to have disappeared from my slides here, but I'll put the information in the chat box again of how you can reach Consolidated Planning Group for your free informational chat. So I hope, Lynsy, that you're taking a look at the chat box too. Do you see any questions in there that you want to take on right now?
I was trying to look, but I'm not always the best multitasker because I was trying to also listen to what you were sharing, because the information is so important on knowing what services that you guys provide as well. I tried to answer one. So let me just kind of flip through if we have a couple more minutes. Do you have any openings in your group homes right now? Leslie, if you could send me an email or a text or a call, I can get you in touch with our group home placement coordinators, and they can tell you where group home openings are available right now. We answered do we pay the full host home rate? Yes, the direct rate. We do have a program out of Louisiana. I'm not super familiar with it, but I can't see the name. The one that's whoever starts with WYTO, please email, text, call, whatever, and I will get you in touch with someone in Louisiana. We talked about how to get on the list. We are recording this Zoom. Yes, the presentation is getting sent out. So is that something we can do if our kid? Yes, so I think I answered that, but let me answer it again for you, Lynn. If your loved one gets a slot and they're over 18, they definitely you can be their host home provider in order for them to stay at home with you. Family member. So we talked about that one.
What is the rate and what is required for the direct rate?
So, once your loved one has an HCS slot, they'll be assigned a level of need. So there's a rate attached to each level of need. Level 1, I might be a little bit wrong on the change because I don't have enough time to look up the exact list, but it's $47.24 for a level need 1. I'm pretty sure. A level 5 is $50.89 per day. A level 8 is $69.19 per day, and a level 6, and it does go in that strange order, 1, 5, 8, and then back down to 6 means that you need the most hands-on assistance. It's $94 and something per day. I don't want to guess at the change. I can't remember what it is offhand. We don't place a whole lot of level 6 into host homes, but it is absolutely fine to do so. But it's $94 and some change per day. We do pay twice a month. There's no, like I said, it's tax exempt. If we want to have a specific conversation about that, just reach out. I'm happy to share more information.
Fantastic. So if, somebody has their name on the waiting list for the waivers and, after years and years and years, their name finally comes up and they feel that they don't need it, can they save it for later? Can they postpone? What would a person do? Although I really can't
You
see
take
why.
it. You
Huh?
take your waiver. Please do not ever turn down the waiver. You only have to use one service in order to have it. So when you get it, if you just choose own home, family home, meaning you don't want to make a change to the living environment and you just take that dental, you can never turn down free dental money, right? So that's what I recommend to anyone who says, man, I don't need this. My loved one will never live in a group home. We'll never need an attendant to come in. Host home is too much paperwork. Those are, do I believe those cases? But different people have different reasons of why they don't think they need this. And I say, please just take it for the 2000 dental. Like Michelle was saying earlier, you might have a plan, mapped out for how your loved one's life will look like years down the road. But what if there's a change that you couldn't have anticipated? A lot of people say my loved one will never live in a group home, and that is totally okay. But maybe that sister that takes your loved one in would want to be the host home provider or something like that. So, getting that little bit of host home money might really benefit. I always tell people, if you don't feel like you need it as your family, save it up for a trip. It's your host home dollars. Go on a nice vacation and enjoy, but please don't pass up this slot because you'll go back to the starting out point if you turn it down and time passes. Just take the dental. Just take the dental. I see another question. Does DNS use who does DNS use for a BCBA in Houston? Our company that we use, and it's a DNS owned company. We started it. It's called Behavior Solutions. However, if you already have a BCBA and you want to choose us as your provider, we will contract with that other BCBA. We don't say, well, if you're with us, you have to use ours. It's a program of choice. What is a health
and lots of great information. Thank you to everybody who has been on the webinar. If we didn't get to your questions, please feel free to reach out to Consolidated Planning Group or to reach out to Lynsy. We are both here to help, and there were just so many people on today and so many questions. I know we missed some of them, but I do really appreciate you all being here. Go ahead and sign up for your free consultation with Consolidated Planning Group. You did register for the webinar and we have your information. So we will call you. We'll be reaching out to see if you want to schedule that free consultation. It's over Zoom. It's usually 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how many questions you have. We are there. We're doing this to answer your questions and to allow you to pick our brains. And then we'll talk about, of course, what we do and how we work and what we charge if you wanted to move forward with planning services through us. But I promise we don't bite. So please go ahead and schedule that. And like I said, if we didn't get to your question, I apologize, but please reach out to us join our upcoming webinars, reach out to Lynsy. And I hope you guys all have a fantastic 4th of July. Keep all your fingers and toes intact. Be safe, but have a great time.
Thank
Thank you.
you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.